Hey Keith, why are you here? You don't have a seat, just go home now. That day, I was at an Italian restaurant to attend a celebration party for the successful completion of a project, which also served as a welcome party. Upon entering, I checked for my seat. Huh? Keith, what's up? I don't have a seat. What? As I stood puzzled at the entrance of the restaurant, Landon, my boss, came over with a smirk on his face. Hey Keith, why are you even here? Hi, Landon. I was just troubled because my name isn't on the seating chart. What are you babbling about? You don't have a seat. It seems that he had arranged this welcome party and deliberately hadn't prepared a seat for me. As he loudly insulted me without caring about the stares from those around us at the entrance of the restaurant, a well-dressed, portly man hurried over. Landon, do you even know what you're saying? My name is Keith. I'm a 22-year-old employee. Having started working right after high school, this year marks my 4th year in the workforce. There's a reason why I didn't go to college and instead chose to work. This was because in the fall of his senior year of high school, Marco, my father, who until then had been in good health and had never caught a cold, suddenly fell sick and was hospitalized. During dinner with my family, my father suddenly clutched his chest and collapsed. I could hear my mother's scream like cry from afar as I stood frozen, unable to do anything but watch as he was taken away in an ambulance. At the hospital, he was diagnosed with acute myocardial infarction, a terrifying disease where the blood vessels that supply blood to the heart muscle become blocked, rapidly cutting off blood flow. Fortunately, he was able to survive because he was able to undergo surgery at the hospital immediately, but since part of his heart's function did not recover, he could not work as hard as before and was forced to take a leave of absence, as his progress had to be monitored and controlled through a rehabilitation program and medication. He had been a top salesman for a large local manufacturer of electrical machinery, and I believe we were fairly well off. However, when my father became seriously sick at a young age and was unable to work as a salesman as he wished, and my mother devoted herself to taking care of him, I decided to become independent as soon as possible to give my parents peace of mind, and decided to find a job after graduating from high school, instead of continuing on to higher education. My parents repeatedly tried to persuade me, saying, "We have enough for college expenses. Don't worry if you want to pursue higher education." But my determination was firm. I decided to find a job, but it was difficult because I was already approaching the fall of my senior year of high school, and it was too late in the year to make the shift from seeking higher education to seeking a job. Nevertheless, wanting to ease the burden on my bedridden father and my mother, who was devoted to his care, I aimed for a job that paid well, but it was difficult as the job openings themselves were already gone. That's when a glimmer of hope appeared. My father offered me a job at the company where he worked. Seeing my desperate search for a job, he spoke to the president of his company, asking if he could help find a job for me. "Keith, I just got a call from Mr. Johnson of our company." "What phone call?" "I'm talking about your employment. I'm a good friend of his, you know, if he's hiring high school graduates. I've asked him to interview you too." "Well, thank you. But only because he did me a favor in getting you on the hiring process. The deadline for the application screening is tomorrow. If it passes, they are planning to schedule an interview in a week. What do you think? Do you want to give it a shot?" "Of course, but your company is a big company, right? Do you think I'll be able to make it?" "What are you talking about? Don't be so negative. You'll be fine." "Thanks, Dad. I'll do my best." His company, Ibis Electric, was the largest in our area and a global leader in electrical machinery components. The starting salary for a high school graduate was significantly higher than any other job listing I had seen, and I was determined to get this offer to not let my father down. That said, of course, there is no special treatment, such as nepotism, and I was just told that there is a hiring window. and I have to pass both the application screening and the interview, just like everyone else. With my mother's help, I prepared my resume and the cover letter overnight and managed to pass the application screening. Then came the day of the final interview. Before I knew it, it was December, and the end of the fiscal year was approaching. This additional hiring meant there were fewer competitors than I expected. After a while, I was called into the interview room, where a portly, dignified man who seemed to be President Johnson was seated, along with 2 other HR personnel. I greeted them as practiced and delivered the self-introduction I had rehearsed countless times, facing straight ahead. Then, after fielding several questions and stumbling a bit, I believe I managed to respond confidently, showing the results of my interview practice. Before I knew it, the interview time had swiftly come to an end. An HR representative told me, "We'll contact you later by email regarding the result," to which I somehow managed to nod before leaving the interview room. I hurried to the hospital where my father was admitted to report about the day. "Keith, how did it go?" "Well, honestly, I'm not sure. They said they'd inform me of the result by email later." Hearing my report, he quietly nodded. "Well, I don't know if you'll get a good job, but you're about to graduate from high school and go out into the world." "Yes." "Do you remember what I always tell you?" With a serious look, he posed this question. In response, I nodded deeply, indicating my understanding. Since I was young, he had incessantly instilled a particular lesson in me. Of course, we value our relationships with people and never forget to have compassion for others, right? Yes, that's right. Whether it's work, friends, or family, relationships between people are what matter most. As you go out into the world and engage with more people than ever before, if you always respect others and act with compassion, everything will go well. Also, I playfully interrupted his following words. Don't just think it, act on that feeling, right? I've heard it so much, I can already hear it in my mind's ear. All right, but if you've got it in your head, then you'll be fine. Dad, thank you for everything this time. I ended up needing your help after all. You don't have to say that, okay? It's because I got sick that I caused you unnecessary worry. It's a parent's responsibility to do the least they can. You're a smart guy, even without your parents' favoritism, and you have the right spirit. Don't forget, if your job search turns out successful, it's because of your own abilities. With those words, he smiled kindly. When the offer letter arrived at home later, my mother and I cried tears of joy together. I managed to secure a job just in time, right after my high school graduation. As a celebration of my first job, she left my dad in the hospital and took me to a steakhouse. The taste of that steak and my father's jealous face are memories I'll never forget. And so, I stepped into society full of great hopes as a working adult. Upon joining the company, my first assignment was in the sales department, where my father had once worked. Known as one of the most demanding jobs in the company, the sales department was also considered one of its most prestigious. On my first day, as I nervously introduced myself, I was greeted by a room filled with ringing phones and a tense, hostile atmosphere. Everyone's a bit swamped with work right now. Try to find something you can do and start by going through the training materials at your desk. Also, answering the phones is a rookie's job, so I'm counting on you. Yes. My colleagues and superiors were all busy, seemingly lacking the time and resources to train a newcomer like me. The job of sales was incredibly diverse, involving not only selling products but also handling corporate sales for large orders and coordinating with numerous suppliers to ensure a steady supply of necessary parts and materials. I proactively sought out tasks to learn, and, following my father's teachings, I always put compassion for others first in my work. At first, I memorized the names and faces of about 40 people in the sales department within 3 days. I was the first to pick up the phone, making sure to capture all the details of the caller's request and relay messages accurately. Through small acts of consideration, taking the initiative to find work, and being the first to help where hands were needed, I constantly thought about what I could do and what others needed, and I kept on acting accordingly. Max, there was an inquiry from Anderson Company about the delivery deadline for some parts. I've attached the product assembly schedule document to the email, so please check it and get back to them. Keith, got it. Thanks a lot. Your work really covers all the bases. Things have somehow gotten easier since you came. No, it's not, but thanks. Yes, truly it is. I've been able to breathe a little easier thanks to you. Hey, how about you come with me to a sales call next time? Thank you, I'd love to join you. Thus, the gap between me and my senior colleagues and superiors, who might have initially seen a newcomer as a burden, gradually closed, and the tense atmosphere softened, leading to smoother communication. As a result, I got more opportunities to learn and rapidly picked up the job, and the joy of being assigned my own clients in record time, just 6 months after joining, is unforgettable. I also succeeded in securing several significant contracts by adopting a considerate approach towards clients and partners, who appreciated my attitude. Every time I closed one contract, I received more and more referrals from clients, and my sales performance improved remarkably. 3 years after I was assigned to the sales department, I had grown into one of the top salesperson in the company, competing for the top spot. All of this was thanks to my father's teachings. By the time I had matured into an excellent salesperson, his health had finally improved enough for him to return to work. Actually, after the 18-month sick leave benefit period had ended, he had already been working from home in an administrative role through remote work, but this time, he was making a full return to the office. Seeing him, dressed sharply in a suit and heading off to work after such a long time, moved me to tears. My father, who had suddenly clutched his chest and collapsed with a pale face 3 years ago, was then a little thinner, but just as lively as he used to be, greeting with various people at work. The entrance to the company's office building was crowded with people delighted by his return since the morning, and I was impressed, knowing that he truly was a top salesperson well remembered by Mr. Johnson. Everyone, I apologize for any concern you may have had about my health problems. I am back in full swing today and will continue to dedicate myself to the development of the company. Marco, we've been waiting for you. Congratulations on your return. Please continue to share your goodwill with all of us. Afterward, it seemed he was called by Mr. Johnson and briskly headed to the president's office. After watching him leave, I felt somewhat curious about his popularity and asked a senior colleague next to me for the reason. I learned that he had a nickname, the legendary bonus distributor. The origin of the nickname was that every time he clinched a big deal, boosting the company's performance dramatically, the company paid small bonuses to all employees as a way of sharing the profits. Thanks to his sales achievements, bonuses had been distributed to all employees numerous times, making him a hero in their eyes. Learning about this side of him that I hadn't known at home filled me with pride. And then, in the afternoon of the same day, I was suddenly called to the president's office. "Excuse me. Sorry for calling you out so suddenly." "No problem. What is this about, Mr. Johnson?" "Actually, I wanted to discuss the possibility of transferring you to one of our subsidiary companies." "Excuse me. I was talking about this with your father this morning." Hearing that, I remembered seeing him heading to the president's office in the morning. Transfer, as in. Don't take this the wrong way. We highly value your work. Then why? Well, it's actually your father's idea. Mr. Johnson explained the details of the transfer, and I agreed to accept the offer after understanding the reasons behind it. "I understand. I'll do my best." Thus, as my father returned, I was transferred to the company by Mr. Johnson. The new company specialized in sensor devices and, acknowledging my past achievements, assigned me to their sales department. Greeted by the warm welcomes of my new colleagues in the sales department, I felt nervous but grateful for the opportunity. "Nice to meet you. I've worked in sales in my previous job, so I'll do my utmost to be of service." "Wow, that's reassuring. We're counting on you." Welcomed by friendly colleagues, I felt good about accepting the offer, but there was one person who seemed to have it in for me from the start, a troublesome figure. His name was Landon, my direct superior. Landon, a graduate of the highly prestigious University of New York, was a troublesome individual who often boasted about his elite status. On the first day, when I went to greet him, he openly mocked me for being a high school graduate, and since then, I've been enduring his harassment every day. "I'm Keith, newly assigned to the sales department. I look forward to working with you." "So, you're a high school graduate, right?" "Well, yes." "Wow, really a high school grad? Unbelievable." "Unbelievable? What do you mean by that?" "I'm the elite who graduated from University of New York. Working with someone who's just a high school graduate like you is embarrassing and too bad." Landon sneered, ridiculing my educational background from the moment we met. From then on, Landon began to spend his days making fun of me because of my low education and incompetence. One day before a meeting, "Hey, Keith, make sure you prepare the materials for tomorrow's meeting properly." "Tomorrow? I haven't been informed of any schedule." "What an idiot. I'm talking about my meeting." "Excuse me. Being kind enough to give a job to someone as incompetent as you, who only has a high school diploma, I must be really nice. Make sure you do it properly, right?" "Understood." Like this, Landon began to dump all sorts of tasks on me. Despite struggling with Landon's treatment, a few months into my job, I was selected to be part of a major project related to the IoT implementation for a large transportation company. In today's society, sensors are used in all kinds of places. Not only in automatic doors, but also in toilets, faucets, lighting, and many other household applications. The advancement of IoT is being pushed forward in various scenarios, and it's no exaggeration to say that the future of our business hinges on the success of this venture. Eager to contribute, I joined this significant project, but Landon's harassment didn't stop there. "Keith, I've booked conference room A for tomorrow's meeting." "Tomorrow? What's the meeting tomorrow for?" "What are you talking about? There's a pre-presentation executive report tomorrow, right?" "Wait a minute, I was told that the meeting is scheduled for the day after tomorrow." "What? Not this again. What a hassle." Thus, being deliberately given the wrong schedule was a daily routine, and on one occasion, harassment continued, such as being asked to make major revisions to presentation materials the night before a presentation because the materials needed for a meeting with a client were hidden, or not being told only to myself about communications. "Hey, Keith, you took the documents from my desk without permission." "What are you talking about?" "What is information I hadn't given out to you included in your presentation materials?" "If it's about those documents, I received them from the chief before the executive report." "Huh? Are you sucking up to the chief now? People with low education are so crafty." "Sucking up? The chief simply provided me with the necessary information for the document I was preparing." "Hey, don't get cocky with me. You're just a high school grad." I couldn't bring myself to show Landon any respect or compassion. I could empathize with a positive attitude, but I saw no reason or room to entertain his malicious and petty actions. Even from an outsider's perspective, the harassment I faced from Landon seemed excessive, and my colleagues, concerned for me, often stepped in to help. If there was any information I wasn't aware of, they would report it to me, and if there were important emails from Landon to the project team excluding me, someone would forward them to me. With the support of my teammates, I managed to visit the client multiple times, presenting various solutions using sensor technology to address their issues. This is fantastic. Let's finalize the contract. This will significantly reduce our transportation costs and the workload of our delivery people as well. I'd love to have you on board. Thank you very much. As a result, the project was a success, and we secured a significant contract. After working tirelessly for 6 months since my transfer and wrapping up this major project, Alex, our division head, decided to hold a celebration party for me, doubling as a project success party. I was looking forward to my first company party since joining, but after work, I headed to a slightly upscale Italian restaurant with my colleagues for the celebration. It seemed that the party was set up to include Mr. William and the executives since we were celebrating a major contract win. The restaurant was reserved by our company, and many employees involved in the project had already gathered. Wow, President William and Executive Director Reynolds are here too. I'm nervous. Where's my seat? Seems like we're split into 4 tables. Tom, you're next to Mr. Reynolds, I guess. Oh my, what should I do? Just enjoy your meal like usual. Wait, what? Keith, what's up? There is no name of mine here. What? While checking the seating chart at the entrance, I couldn't find my name. Who organized this event again? Oh no, it's Landon. Landon, no way. My seat was the only one not prepared, and as I was hesitating at the entrance, Landon, noticing me, approached from the back of the restaurant with a smirk. Hey Keith, why are you here? Good evening, Landon. I came to join as part of the project team for the celebration. What are you blabbering about? There's no seat for you. It turns out Landon had arranged this welcome party and intentionally hadn't prepared a seat for me. Basically, a high school grad like you sucking up to everyone and then claiming to have played a part in securing a contract. That's a bad joke. Sucking up, what do you mean? I thought you might be deluded into thinking you contributed to securing the contract when you can't do anything by yourself, so I just wanted to make it clear to you. Landon then monopolized the conversation, belittling me loudly at the entrance without concern for the surrounding stares. Suddenly, Mr. William, looking furious, approached from behind Landon. Landon, do you know whom you're talking to? Mr. William, I'm sorry, but I'm not sure I understand what you're meaning. I'm saying to you, what are you talking about? Don't you know who he is? Of course, I know him quite well. He's the incompetent employee with only a high school diploma, right? You fool. Keith was brought in as a potential future president at the request of his father, a major shareholder of this company. William, turning rapidly from pale to flushed with anger, scolded Landon, who was shocked by his words. In reality, I joined this company as a candidate for its future president. The reason behind this move was because my father is a major shareholder of the company. My father, who had been a top salesman with extensive connections and always valued relationships, had bought a large amount of stock to help the company out of a financial crisis 10 years ago at the request of Mr. William, who was then a client. Unknown to me, my father, who had earned more than the average employee through incentives, had established an investment firm and was involved in stock investments. Given the strong trust from my father, who is also a major shareholder, I joined a company as a potential successor to Mr. William, who was troubled by succession issues despite the financial troubles being over. After Mr. William explained how I joined a company, Landon quickly turned pale. There was also a complicated story involving Mr. Johnson, who was approached by my father about transferring me to this company in order to take over the business. Then Mr. Johnson offered me this transfer, hoping that the company where Landon, his son, worked would grow further. Landon's haughty demeanor was likely due to being spoiled as Mr. Johnson's son, leading him to mistakenly believe that he was destined to be the next president of this company. It seems Mr. Johnson wanted his son to be exposed to society by working at this company rather than his own. A clear case of a parent's intentions being lost on their child. Wait a minute, no way. Why would a low-educated high school grad be the future president? I was supposed to be the president of this company. Shut up. I accepted you because of my long-standing relationship with Mr. Johnson, but the complaints from employees are endless. And how many clients have banned you from entering their premises? Think what you've done. That's because they were incompetent. It's not my fault. It's not my fault. Landon refused to admit his fault, and after shouting angrily, he stormed out of the restaurant. After Landon left, I took his seat, and we celebrated the project's success and my joining the company. After the meal, Mr. William personally apologized for Landon's actions. Keith, I am truly sorry. I had no idea Landon was such a terrible person like that. It must have been difficult to deal with the son of a business associate you were entrusted with. I'm fine, but given his behavior, the damage seems more extensive than I thought. Yes, I'll start investigating as soon as possible. I'll take this opportunity to clean out all the mess from the company. Sounds good. Let me know if there's anything I can do to help. We firmly agreed on the next steps from a management perspective. The next day, Landon, whom I had intended to interview immediately, stopped coming to the office. In addition to this, employees who had endured his harassment, flaunting his status as the son of a client company's president, collectively blew the whistle on his arrogant behavior, sloppy work, and nuisances. It appears he habitually belittled others as incompetent or uneducated, and resorted to petty insults like poor or ugly towards those he deemed inferior in academic credentials. Upon receiving these reports, Mr. William set up an internal reporting channel within the compliance department and conducted a survey, which revealed a volume of complaints far exceeding expectations. Efforts were made to verify the facts with Landon himself, but he continued to refuse coming to work. Incredibly, he claimed to have suffered mental distress due to unfair admonition from the company and demanded compensation. The company, of course, did not entertain his claims and dismissed him for his refusal to attend work. Even after his dismissal, Landon was reportedly blustering about unfair dismissal and vowing to fight back with legal action. However, Mr. Johnson, Landon's financial backer and his father, disowned him, and rumors suggest he has since been cast out and left destitute. This situation underscores the critical importance of interpersonal relationships in the workplace. This experience has profoundly reminded me of the value of caring for and cherishing others. Moving forward, I remain committed to empathy and compassion. I'm going to continue to work hard every day, never forgetting to be considerate of others and feeling responsible as the next president of the company.